and golds.
Yeah, mostly silvers and golds. I think we have a bronze 3 in our team. I think it's Synchro, but like I'm gonna be real, I have not seen Synchro ever play at a bronze 3 level. I think I've always seen Synchro play like minimum silver. So I don't think that there's any issues with this game. Also, they like have a gold 4, so it about balances out with like somebody else, and they have a silver 4 as well. So I'm pretty much fairly even. Um, you know, no, nothing wood tier, nothing above like gold, so it's a pretty even game. Um, let's see. All right, so UNA Gold has entered ban phase. They have 20 seconds. We're going to see an Akshan ban first thing, really? Okay, interesting.
No, I think that the spectator link they gave us may have been the in-game link.
Um, it's working for me. I can see bans. Yeah. So they did ban Akshan. We have a Seraphine ban. Which is makes
I,
sense. Both are like really prevalent right now in the meta, so I would kind of fully expect to see maybe a Gwen ban or something as well. We'll see. Typically at this level of play, we also like have things like Fiora bans or like Yas bans. Silas ban, that's good. That is a very good play on UNA's part. So I'm glad to see that. But yeah, we're probably just gonna see some. Oh, really? Okay, that's strange. But I guess it makes sense. Okay, so that's a Skarner ban from MSU. I believe that UNA's jungler mostly plays Skarner, so kind of makes sense. But the last ban is going to be Morton Cass. So pretty even bans on both sides. All right. Well, okay, this is already interesting. So, Kyle, what are you thinking about this?
I mean, Kale into Elise. Kale generally will go top in this meta. She can't really
Yeah,
survive in the mid lane. So I'm thinking there's probably going to be a pressure point where you're wanting to have a strong top side, strong jungle to actually pressure the kill early on.
yeah, especially letting a Kale actually just farm super dangerous, especially game one environment where both teams are going to be playing safe. Just letting that Kale stay there and basically not have to interact with anything. That's going to be a super dangerous choice for both teams. So um or not for both teams, for MSU. But Lulu makes sense. Lulu I think is one of the more prevalent supports I'm seeing right now. In ranked play. Um Not really so much for the obvious reasons, but just because it gives you a lot of burst fight potential with a Lulu ult. So
She's been a strong pick for the past several months at least. She's always in the top of the supports.
yeah.
Something I'm actually surprised I'm not seeing right now is a Mumu.
I am also surprised I'm not seeing a new right now. I was just about to make the comment. I was actually a little bit more surprised than that I'm actually seeing a Sejuani as well. Um, but going Nasus into Kale, that's a very interesting choice. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. It's I can see like Jin into a Lulu bot lane, like that makes sense. Uh, but I know that if this is Sejuani Elise jungle, that's going to play out very interesting. So
I mean, on the one hand, that is one way you can take the Kale matchup is you just pick something else that scales really well, and you just
yeah,
try to outscale them. It really comes down to how well this Nasus can actually stack. Because if he can stack well and it plays correctly, he can just beat down the Kale in the side lane later on. But you're kind of running into the problem where if you're picking something that kind of scales up later and doesn't pressure as much, then you're just giving Kale the free lane to actually get to her later levels where she gets range, where she gets more gold and can actually be a real threat.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm just thinking mainly Fizbane and Vel'Kozbane's make sense. These team comps kind of feel. I assume there's gonna be some like picks for the last two for each team that kind of lock in these compositions. Because right now, Kayle, Lulu, Sejuani, that those three champions together feel really loose to me. Um, so kind of hoping to see from UNA, kind of hoping to see some sort of really high damage ADC carry.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, on the one hand, the you could almost go for a utility AD carry in this because you kind of have the Kale in the late game to DPS.
yeah,
You have the
exactly.
Sejuani to be kind of a front line, and you have Lulu to kind of protect your Kale and whatever AD carry you do end up picking. This
Gangplank.
seems like.
Mm,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah. This does seem kind of strange. Is what I'll say right now. Um, is it just me or did MSU not have a fifth ban?
I also do not see a fifth ban.
Okay. Well, for the viewers, that's supposed to be an Ash ban. I think ProDraft must have messed up or something, so it's very
We
interesting.
we had problems with that back in the day too. I'm glad to see that it hasn't changed in 2 years.
Uh, yeah, we can't really expect Riot Games to, come in and fix their very not apparent client for doing professional
Okay,
games.
I'll I'm good with Bash and Riot, but to be fair, ProDraft isn't actually a Riot thing. This is a third party
No, it's
UI.
ProDraft League of Legends. No, it's first person. Or it's first party.
It is?
Yeah, it's made by League.
Oh,
Yeah,
I rescind my defense
it
of
looks like it
Riot.
was made in MS Paint, but
I really thought it was third party with how it's made.
nope. All right, well,
So
looks
we
like
didn't really talk about those last two picks. They
no,
they
we did
grabbed
not.
they ended up grabbing an Anivia and a Nico. So there's some real weird things happening with MSU because I think that might be a Nico support.
I mean, I guess Gangplank mid would make sense, but like also, I'm not sure I would ever play Gangplank into an Anivia. Um,
You can't cage me.
so yeah, definitely some interesting stuff going on here. I think now in client we're just seeing um the actual formal process go through.
So looking at team comps overall, I actually really like UNA Gold how they ended up rounding it out. They have some really good engage with the Sejuani and the Varus. They have really good like zoning tools with the Anivia and the Lulu. It's just a really well-rounded comp.
Yeah, exactly. Now I feel like if MSU can manage to make it to late game, they're going to be absolutely fine. But early game Nasus and Gangplank is going to be pretty interesting to see. Um, Especially in the lane where like you have Anivia and Sejuani. That if Anivia like gets a stun and Sejuani comes in the lane, like if that's Gangplank mid, that is a very dead Gangplank mid. There is not a lot they can do about that. So I think you
If
and
he
it.
is
Go ahead.
if the Gangplank is good, he could orange out of the Anivia and try to play a little safe, but it comes down a lot to how he actually positions in the lane.
Yeah, exactly. Um, there really is some funny stuff. Like I didn't like think too much of the Anivia Nico when I saw it, but man, that really is quite interesting. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
I mean,
But
I will say Jin Nico on paper seems like it would be pretty strong in the bot lane because you just bully out the Varus Lulu. So you
yeah,
just have so much poke. But I don't know, late game or even like mid game and late game as it goes on, the Nico is going to be paper, and it's going to be harder and harder for her to do what you usually see from Nico's mid, where they kind of like go in and engage with these big ultimates. It's going to be kind of lackluster.
yeah, exactly. And I feel like early game though, bot lane is kind of unlocked. Like you between Jin W and Nico stun, you have like a 2.5 to 3 second long CC chain. So, if they could pull that off, that's like that's a pretty reliable kill confirm from like half health downward, especially on like Varus. Um, but we will have to see because it kind of all depends on can they actually push him late enough to manage to get that confirm off, and can their jungler, I guess, really come and kind of pressure that lane early on? Because Sejuani in this type of game, every lane is gankable pretty much really early. So it's junglers are gonna have a lot of fun this game, but it's going to be really easy to see. Really interesting to see what MSU does about it.
I think one of the biggest kind of mismatches, pressure wise at least, is going to be this Elise versus the Sejuani, because Elise is really going to have to try to find stuff in the early game to actually put out as much value as the Sedge is coming into mid.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, and I do think that maybe if the Elise find something early on, this game could really, really shift in MSU's favor. But that if that Elise hits like useless for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, we don't see any action gank wise. Because the Sejuani is going to be like running in the lanes 24/7, because that's just the Sejuani thing. Sejuani just runs into people's lanes. Um, so unless like Elise has Potato has a way to kind of counteract that, it's going to be a really, really rough game for Potato, I think.
Honestly, I think the Sejuani, it doesn't even have to have that much pressure, because I think if it gets to mid game and it just farms up better than Elise and Elise doesn't find anything, Sejuani just being a good frontliner, I think will provide plenty of value.
Yeah. And Elise is also one of those kind of high skill ceiling champions to where you really need to know. You can't like pick up Elise one day and be like, "Oh, I'm just going to play Elise now." No, there's actually like quite a lot of inner mechanics that you have to be aware of in order to play Elise. So,
Oh yeah, I know. For any longtime viewers that are in here, our old jungler when I used to play wasn't Elise one trick. So I know this champion.
yeah, see, I'm just a filthy like Windbros main, so I just kind of, don't um I just don't have to like use my brain to play the game. Except for Yone. Yone combo routes are a little bit tricky, but otherwise, yeah, I don't really have to try too hard.
I think one of the big problems that MSU at least is going to have going into the later stages of the game is their very short range compared to the other
Oh yeah,
side.
definitely.
Like the
I don't
GP,
know,
the
like
Nasus, and Elise, they're all running into an Anivia, a Navaris, a Sejuani. It's going to be tough.
yeah, I think the Jin maybe compensates for that a little, but like apart from the Jin, this entire team is just dive comp pretty much. So you're gonna see like a lot of really, really hard engages from MSU, I think. Which is unfortunate because there's a lot of kite potential on UNA. So
Yeah, and
getting
part
kited by Kale at level 16 will not be fun.
and what makes it worse is their entire top side, their entire way of engaging is just running at them. Because it's Nasus popping ult and walking in. It's GP throwing out ults and barrel chains and trying to walk in to actually do anything. Elise throwing herself at someone. Like it's gonna be real tough actually getting past the front line.
Exactly. I think
You're in
right
game.
now, to wait a little bit for the spectator delay, but we'll be on the way in.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. A summoner has disconnected.
So some things that are jumping out at me just like as we're looking in. Oh, we got a pause already.
Oh, do we have a pause already?
We do have a pause already. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Well, while we have this pause, some things that are jumping out of me just looking at masteries, runes. Um, Double Dark Harvest bot lane from MSU.
I also just noticed that. I was looking around at runes and I was like, what's
30
going on
seconds
here?
until minions spawn.
Yeah,
There,
double DH bot lane. Hmm.
I mean, I've seen Dark Harvest on Jhin. It's the more aggressive option if you're expecting to trade a whole lot early. Um, I guess if you're going for a Nico Jhin, you're planning on doing that anyway, so it makes sense. But
Yeah.
it's really really heavily indexed on actually doing stuff in the early game. If they don't get a whole lot of procs, that it can feel real bad to have a like 2-stack Dark Harvest 20 minutes into the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2-stack DH basically just means that you picked your rune page and you said, oh, look at that, I'm gonna have a dead rune. So
Minions have spawned.
definitely don't want to do that. But yeah, like I said earlier, both teams being really safe right now, basically not peeking into river at all. I think I saw a very limited interaction between Gangplank and Nivea early on. But that was about it. But we're about to start getting into our laning phase, so we'll see what happens then.
So interesting to note, just off the first starts, Sejuani actually started topside with the Kayle leashing. So when she actually hits level 3, she's probably going to be looking for mid or bot lane gank. Whereas Elise, she's on the opposite side. She got the bot lane to leash her. She's probably going to be topside when she hits 3. So it's going to be interesting to see like that mismatch. If one of them gets a gank off and the other one kind of doesn't, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I would like to point out that there is already a gank happening top lane.
I eat my words immediately. Sedge just decided to go top instead.
Yeah. Didn't really do anything. In fact, ate a turret shot. I think had to consume a potion charge for it.
So if you look in the
but it
map, Elise is going to the bot side jungle now too.
Yeah. I don't really understand what's going on here. I'm completely honest. This is a very interesting choice by Potato to steal bottom red camp.
Well, I mean, with Sedge,
It's
when
a very,
Sedge goes top,
very bold move. Oh, okay, that's mid lane. And Nivea cheating at the game by having a respawn.
feels bad. But I mean, that's kind of the downside to doing an early level 2 gank top where you don't really get anything of it. You show that you're top side. Elise clears faster than you, so she has time to walk into your jungle, take some of those camps. And now she still has her entire top side to farm, whereas Sedge, she's going to come down and not have a red.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Sage is about to discover that here as Sage kind of starts wandering in the bot lane. Also, that was a really good ward. Ward by Potato coming down. I have perfect information on that jungler. And you can see the pings mid for Synchro to kind of get out of there. Speaking of the lane that we haven't talked about, bot was pushed back all the way to blue side turret, so that is kind of going how we predicted, with the poke being a lot to deal with early game.
We
but
didn't
Nico will
mention
be
it.
paper.
Yeah, but we didn't mention it. They got 2 kills. Nico's gonna be kind of strong if she actually keeps this gold lead and they keep fighting this much. Like that's the reverse
the
of it.
thing is, I think that's just you support Nico.
Because that is how you kind of fix that problem of going support Nico, where you don't have the same kind of engage. Because if you just get as much gold as you would mid lane anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Although I'm not sure if the Lulu's just kind of leashing the scuttle, or if they're actually about to gank. But yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on with that. It's a little bit strange. This Synchro is very dead though. I caught him way out of position. And, yeah, that's. But on one hand though, bot lane did completely rope. I think we had 4 people mid to get 1 kill. which is very interesting. But I think they're trying to set up for Cloud Drake here. Oh, Flash, Flash in on top lane to get that kill under tower. That was, kind of a bold move. Nessus almost did die for it, but, you know, risk it for the biscuit, I guess.
He didn't, and results-based analysis, good play.
A very good play. Kel Bird teleport back to lane, and teleport for Flash actually is a pretty decent trade. I will teleport for Flash and a kill, so that's okay. Yeah, we saw an early death from Synchro, and Synchro has only been the only one I think on Red Team that has died at all on MSU. But I think that's kind of one of Sejuani's main game plans here, is just to pressure mid lane heavily and try to get kills that way. But I think his Gangplank kind of levels up here. I don't think that's going to be like a super viable solution for the long term, so it'll be interesting to see what Sejuani decides to do about that.
It really depends on how good Synchro's wave management is. Because looking at him for the past little bit, he seems to constantly be pushing in, and if he does that, he's leaving himself a little open. Oh, and there's a scuffle in the river.
Yep. Again, I missed the CC. This is winnable, I think, if Synchro doesn't fly away. Yeah, that should be a dead. That should be a very dead immediate. There we go, okay. So, yep. Fight took a little bit longer just due to the respawn, but Nivea will die there, and I think Synchro's probably going to get at least a plating for that if Synchro isn't back. So, gonna see some early play. It's also an early play just taken now, bot lane. But these are all kind of small things you kind of expect early game. I think Sejuani is also going to pull in top river scuttle here, so.
If he sticks too long for this plate, Sejuani can just come in from scuttle.
I think that's about to happen. Because I'm not seeing Synchro ward top, and that is a dead Gangplank if Synchro does not a flash. Synchro does flash away. Good play.
And scuffle on the other side of the river.
Yep. And I think that dragon is almost guaranteed unless, well, somebody's been finish it off, but oh no, the de-aggroed, okay. This is a very awkward fight for MSU, because now they have to deal with Sejuani and Nivea topside, but they also have that Varus kind of hanging down bot, who is now moving up. So this fight has become really, really decentralized from what they were originally fighting for.
And all this while, we're just watching the fight in the top lane. You know, they say top is an island, and nothing like just watching them fight over farm while the rest of the team is just all brawling over dragon.
Yep, that's about right. That's gonna be dragon for red, and it should be a fairly easy fight to clear up here. Although I think this Jhin kind of got hit very out of position. Gonna burn a flash, get over the wall. I probably would have
Oh,
taken...
they're following for it.
Oh, wow, okay. This is not a place where Elise wants to be. Really not a place where Elise wants to be. Yeah. Really out of position there. I'm not sure why Potato stayed so long. Definitely a questionable play. But meanwhile, top lane,
Still just brawling over CS.
how many stacks is Nessus? Oh, 123. Okay, so that's this Nessus got stacks.
Yeah, he's actually stacking pretty well for the early game.
Kind of. Maybe gonna pick. That's a really rough for. Oh yeah, that's not a place where you want to be. Yeah,
I will say,
Kale will burst under tower.
As bad as that looks, the fact he actually has that many stacks right now, it is a encouraging sight. 'Cause I know the old adage used to be 100 stacks by 10 minutes and then 300 by 20. So he's on track.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is going to be a dead Kale top lane. Yep. And they will at least trade out on that play, making this game 6-6. This has been a really even game in kills. Not so much in objectives, but definitely kills. This is an extremely even game at the moment.
The one worrying thing is, even though it's even in kills, where the gold actually is on the teams is a little bit different. Because they've got their kills on the Anivia and the Varus over on the blue side, but a lot of their gold is invested in the Nico on the red. So
yeah.
it's really going to come down to these mid-game fights. How much is this Nico actually going to be able to do?
And by the looks of it right now, Nico is able to do quite a lot. 3-1-0 sitting bot lane. But you know, it really depends on if the bot lane comp can burst, MSU's bot lane comp can burst down this bottom tower fast enough or not. Because if they let bot lane just kind of sit all game and fester and not really let anything happen, I feel like the major point of contention is probably going to turn into mid lane, and then that's going to be a very, very big miss. So if they can win bot lane early, this is probably going to work much better. Synchro is dead once again, I think. But there was almost a chance for maybe
2 for 1 bot
okay.
lane.
2 for 1 bot lane, and also maybe a 2 for 1 mid lane by Elise if Elise had probably continued that fight, but Elise backed out. So once again, 8-8 tied. Red team currently leading by 0.9k gold, so almost a full 1,000, which is not a lot at this point in the game, but that will soon become an amount that matters a lot because it is probably going to scale. So you have to be careful.
So the good thing about that scuffle that happened in the bot lane, even though we didn't really see it the whole lot, the Jhin actually picked up both of those kills, so you're getting a little bit more gold on him. The Jin's actually up on farm right now, and if they can continue to catch out the Varus and keep landing some of their poke, they can just keep killing them over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, you know, just Jhin coming back in, especially if that happens a lot. Instead, Giovanni's forced to decide between pressuring mid lane or bot lane. This bottom tower will really soon start to seem weak. So it's really up to this Jhin if they can clear out this lane fast enough or not. Because Jhin has the damage right now. This Jhin, okay. So that's a kill from Potato. Can they catch? They catch the Lulu. It doesn't look like it. So
I will say, as much as the Jiangfeng has died, he's died 4 times this mid lane. He's actually still up on gold against the Anivia because he's just been pushing in the wave constantly and farming.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you know, he is up on gold. And Anivia hasn't even like used those kills to pressure lane any. The red team tower still sits at 5 plates. So, you know, it's not only about, you know, like how many kills do you have? Well, each kill, you know, is a certain amount of gold, so that's important. But also it's like, how do you use the time when they're out of lane is the important part. But right now, a lot of people out of lane in CK engaging on the bot side, fighting over this dragon. That's going to be a Bear Assault coming out. That's a pretty dead Jhin, I'm pretty sure. He's going to flash away. Gale Force away as well. Remaining damage from that interaction going to kill the Jhin, but Bears is going to snag the Elise. Blue team, UNA should be on the winning side of this interaction, should be able to secure this dragon fairly easily. The question is, do they actually decide to pressure dragon? And it looks like they probably will. Meanwhile, top lane, you know, people just fighting again.
It's always a brawl in top lane.
Nasus is at 250 stacks at 15 minutes.
He's doing good, doing Nasus things.
He's doing really good. That Nasus is going to become very scary very soon.
I mean, I said it at the beginning. If this Nasus actually can stack very well, he can just become a split push monster in the late game. Because there's not a whole lot they can do to stop him. The
Yeah,
best they could do is send a Nivea and just try to wave clear against him in the side lane. But if you're doing that, then your Nivea is not helping out your other part of your team and stopping engages.
Yeah, and looking at items here, Nasus has Divine Sunder right now, which pretty much means that this lane versus this Kale is going to get really, really free soon. Especially since the Kale only has, well, you know, Kale's always building Natures too first. But Kale's sitting 105 CS, but also Nasus up a kill. So this lane isn't uneven, but it's certainly very strange how it's been playing out so far. But I mean, Ness is at 250 stacks. What are you really gonna do, man?
I mean, if Kale can hit level 16 and keep up this gold lead, she can try to just kite him out and beat him down over time, but it's gonna be tough. It really comes down to how they actually play.
Yeah. Kale also looking kind of in position for first tower here. Kind of parallel to bot lane right now. But we'll see. I don't expect that lane to be quite that easy, so...
Lisa's looking for a gank topside.
Lisa's looking for a gank. Looks like it will be successful fairly easily, and Sejuani going to back off really quick. And Livia kind of wandering through jungle, not really sure what she's doing.
She might have expected the Kale to live a little bit longer and was trying to
so.
top.
Kind of drawing out. Herald here. Northray and Hoopluck in really bad positions here. I'm gonna trigger the Anivia respawn, and that Anivia should be dead here. Yep, so that's a 2 for free. And they're probably going to get Rift Herald off of it as well, so that's really, really good for MSU. I'm probably just going to call it now. I'm pretty sure I expect Rift Herald to get dropped in mid right after this. Unless it's like top or something, but I really see mid being the primary.
So, we kind of talked about it a little bit
there's
earlier.
a bot line. There's a bot line going up the Nico wall. That was a really good Nico wall. It pressured the Lulu off of that very nicely and secured that. I'm not really sure if it was necessary or not. I don't think. I think it was too necessary. Gonna be a weird fight top lane as well. Red team, MSU overextending quite a lot on this play. And that's probably going to be a dead Nasus. And 600, not 600, but 300 shutdown gold, in addition to 300 normal gold for UNA.
So they tried to loop back around and burst the Kale once again, but this time the Kale actually had ult. And that's really going to be the decider a lot of the time whether or not this Kale's going to live or die.
I believe that is the second turret. I think blue turret bot lane, yeah, already fell. First turret of the game. Gold difference here, not setting it too much. Setting about roughly 2k gold difference, so nothing too scary.
A lot of that gold difference is on. It seems even, kind of even, but there's some real mismatches all around because right now mid lane, Gangplank's up like 1300. Bot lane, Jin's up and Nico's up 1500, but top lane and jungle are both kind of. Top lane's even, jungle's down 1000 actually.
Yeah, and you know, despite the fact that I haven't seen Elise getting that many, I mean, it's 3-2-4, so you know, Elise is putting in work. I think I expected Elise to be a little bit less impactful, honestly, going into this game until like post 20. At least feeling very impactful right now. It's just, Elise moves into this fight, going to probably snag 3 kills here, if everything goes well. That Jin is not going to die as easily as people thought. As really as easily as I expected. That's yet another kill on that. Okay, so yeah, we kind of need to break that down, don't we? Because a lot of things just happen. I'm not really sure. So if I'm correct, right? Rewind a little bit here. So Elise comes in, snags the Varus. Synchro dies somehow. Elise jumps up. Sejuani tanks like 2,000 damage from the Jhin. Jhin Gale Forces, and then everything just falls apart because the Jhin reloads and kills it. So it was a very strange interaction, and basically what seems to have happened is the entire team got there, but they got there in 2 waves, and therefore lost the team fight against 3 people. I'm not really sure what that was, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. That is one thing that's going to be a problem going into the late game. Jhin notoriously struggles against tanks, and if this Sedge gets any tankier, it's going to be nigh impossible for him alone to actually kind of get through this front line. She's already got Thornmail tabbies. He is actually just tickling her when he hits her.
Yeah.
I really would want to see like a Lord Dominic's regard from him as soon as possible. Because there's no other way this man's going to get through that Sedge.
CF items right now. Look at Jhin with
He's probably
looking
going
like
to go
they're
Collector.
about to build Collector. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's about right. Very dead Kale. Should be anyway. Starting ult, but does not matter. Jhin kind of gonna dip out because let's say when he is in the lane, that's gonna be a very big issue. And the first stun's gonna miss.
That Kale ult is just doing so much
And
for buying time.
Yeah. That might be a dead Varus. That's not a dead Varus, but very close. Yeah, both teams. Oh, that is a dead Varus. Never mind. I will eat my words. That was a very nice W on the Jhin part. But yeah, both teams kind of now just backing off. I think Red MSU might be looking to try to get this tower, but there's really nothing to fight with here.
This is the problem of playing a game against Anivia. She just throws down an ulti and throws a Q through the wave, and the wave disappears.
Yep.
You really have to get Baron to actually be able to pressure towers against Anivia. Either that or put on some side lane pressure and just go where the Anivia is.
I mean, looking at bot lane right now, bot lane really easy to split push. The question is though, is like where they don't really have time to split push. Nico and Gangplank both are calling back to base, and Jhin and Elise on their way out of base. So really, it's just this Nasus versus Anivia mid lane right now, which is kind of strange. Nothing really going on top lane except for this Kale. Continuing the farm, 3 levels till 16, and that's a little bit concerning.
It's
about
almost
halfway to
more.
level 14.
It's almost more concerning as this Nasus almost has 500 stacks, by the way.
Hey, I was about to check that. I'm glad
He's
you
at-
pointed that out. Yes.
He is at 477.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Nothing at all. Yeah, Q currently doing 587 fizz damage. For how much mana? It's 20 mana for 500 damage. For 600 damage. You know, nothing wrong here.
And one of the changes they made forever ago that I like is they made it to where when Nasus ultis, his Q cooldown gets massively decreased. So it's already like a 3-second cooldown. When this man's in ulti, it's at like 1.5. So he's just hitting people over and over and over again, and it's great.
He literally has like Yasuo Q. Just, he's doing pokes. Except it's better than Yasuo Q because it scales.
He doesn't even have that much farm, which is the weirdest thing. He's at 138 right now with almost 500 stacks.
It's very strange. Dragon's about to pop up in a little bit. Nothing too much right now. Nico gonna ult for this team fight. Very strange decision on the Nasus' part to just kind of walk in the tower, walk out, and not really do anything. But that Q just did half of that Kale's health, so nothing makes sense anymore. That Nasus is too fat to do anything else but walk in the tower apparently. So yeah, I'm really surprised he lived actually. That's I watched the Nasus walk in the tower today, do nothing, walk back out, and still kill the Kale.
So we're about to hit 25 minutes here in about 8 seconds. So let's take a look at the game real quick. Where MSU is up by about 6k gold, they've got 2 more towers and 2 more drakes. They're looking to actually make it sole point right now by focusing around the dragon right now.
Yeah, and I can't see a feasible reason they aren't going to grab this drag. It's also going to be Infernal Soul, which is really, really good, I think, specifically for Jin, who's going to need that, especially into late game. That's going to be that Sejuani is very dead, and they will not get that steal.
She tried her best. I was really surprised when the entirety of MSU just kind of went to the far right and let the Sedge just sit in the pit alone with the dragon for a second. It was a little concerning.
That grenade bouncing off the tail did get the Varus. I was very sad. I was like, but no, that grenade is very strong. Yeah, but this game is 14-24. There's a considerable 7k gold lead at this point, and no matter where it's stacked, 7k gold is a lot. Has 2 full items. I think MSU is about to be setting for Baron here. Pretty good decision. They are aggroing Baron, but I think they're going to back off because this Kale is about to come in, as well as the Sejuani. That Jin is very out of position. I would not want to be there. That's the place where you will get the most CC'd. Mikhail will grab blue buff and is probably going to fight the Nico. But it's very strange here because this team fight is kind of converging on red side jungle, which is not really the place you expect to see a team fight. Normally, you know, like if there's a Aaron team fight, you tend to see it right in front of the pit. But this one is going back into blue side jungle, and this Nasus is just cleaning up.
Yeah.
That is a nice game from MSU. That will be fair.
This Nasus is getting a little too scary. He's almost at 600 stacks, and we were just talking about hitting 500 a little bit ago.
Ace.
It's been like, what, 3-4 minutes? To 700 damage? Interesting. And honestly, now that they have Baron, I can really see this game. They could probably end right here by pushing out mid if UNA does not have a very good response. But we will have to see.
So the early game was very, very back and forth. It was like 6-6, 8-8, and then once mid game kind of rolled around, they've just slowly ballooned this lead more and more on MSU's side. What do you think has to happen for the blue side to actually be able to fight back and come back into this game?
Well, you know, first of all, we do have to talk about the 10k gold gap. That is definitely a large part of the issue, you know. Not even scaling wise, there has to be a way to make that up. And making up 10k gold at 30 minutes into the game is not going to be an easy task, especially when MSU is Baron buff right now. So really, I think UNA, if they're going to make this up, they really need to find some choice shutdowns, catch MSU a little bit out of position, which I will say a couple of times this game, MSU has been really out of position. And it's not impossible. It will be difficult because even if you're out of position, you're still fighting a team that's 10k gold up on you. So, but what they really have to make sure that they don't do is they don't let this gold gap increase, which is unfortunately for UNH what just happened.
And the thing that makes it even scarier is they're almost at Infernal Soul.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, once you get Infernal Soul, that Jin is going to be popping off so hard. It's speaking of which, we were talking about the Jin earlier, picking up a Dominus Regard. This Jin does not have anything other than a collector. They both were building the collector, and now they've basically rebought the items for collector. So pretty, not a huge increase on the Jin side, but this Nasus is being very scary.
I mean, the other way
Also,
Jin just gets
fight
through
depending
set.
bottom. Yeah.
The other way is just get 10k gold. That'll do it.
Exactly. And you know, this bot lane fight right now, looking like it may end the game. This Kale's gonna be forced to pull back and pay attention to the bot lane, or else there's no way that they will win this game.
Blue team's inhibitor has been destroyed.
Go down to half health. If you're gonna try to resurrect, that should be an easy kill for Red for MSU. Synchro gonna die though, being very greedy right there. And that's lost turret down, and they should be able to end right here. Yeah, there's no way this Nasus. And that should be the game. Alright, my game just like froze.
Yeah, mine did too on the end. You might have to just exit.
Yeah, we can send out to pause.
Hello, hello, and welcome back.
All right, so we are back for game 2, MSU versus UNA. Last game, Kyle, tell me a little bit about last game because we kind of saw something in the first 15 minutes and we kind of saw something in the last 15 minutes and it was a little bit strange. So tell me a little bit about it.
So there were some really interesting things going on in the early game. There was some interesting ganks in the top side, and then a lot of pressure from blue into the mid. And red side kind of focused a lot on bot side, and they just kind of won the 2v2 over and over again. But it was a really close game over and all, with like 6-6, 8-8. And then once the team fights happened, NASA's just kind of started popping off, and it all went downhill for blue from there.
Yeah, we definitely saw the NASA snowball quite hard at the end of last game. But UNA, this time around in bans, making sure that that same problem will not happen again. And Nasus was the third ban. They also banned out Kale. So now the entire top lane is going to be mixed up, compared to last game. And we saw Action, Silas, and Seraphine Scarter bans. Again, I'm just assuming that that's just from scouting, and that's a pretty solid ban on their part. I haven't looked at both at UNA's jungle, but I assume that they are a big Skarner player from what I was told by Synchro earlier. So it makes sense.
Interestingly enough, we actually have an Amumu this game.
We do, and we were really talking about at the beginning of last game in picks and bans about how we didn't have an Amumu. So I'm really glad that we finally actually see one now. My
For
question
those,
for this game is,
Hmm.
will we see any like less weird of a bot lane? Because Nico Jin was very strange, and I'm kind of wondering if they're about to do it again.
I mean, it is very strong. I think it's gonna struggle a little bit more into Ash Amumu because if they pick it again, Amumu can just kind of go in and then they just chase down the Nico. So I don't think so, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's an Asher Mumu bot probably and a Cassiopeia mid. That's a Jin mid, no Jin bot, Gangplank mid, Jarvan probably jungle. I don't think Jarvan's played anywhere else at the moment, so
I mean, you can put him top, but it's not as good, and support's kind of a meme.
yeah. Although that is a Malphite ban, which is interesting. I'm not sure if that's a informed ban or if that was just something they really didn't want to play against top. Because they do have now another ban to kind of target ban out top lane now that they know they haven't picked yet. So
Oh, they're actually gonna ban the Nico. That's surprising to me. Oh no, don't do it, MSU. Don't ban Lulu. They already have their
oh
support.
no, it's literally not an issue. Please don't.
Don't do it.
No. Wow.
Oh.
Okay. A
I don't
little.
know if they don't know the meta or what, but for those of you who don't know and may have not seen a bunch of League lately, Mumu's support, very good.
Yeah. Mumu support very good, and I'm not sure, like you said, if that's just meta. I know being unaware of the meta, or if that was just kind of a zero brain moment on MSU's part, but that was not a good ban. And we're gonna see a Mord or Darius ban. Now it looks like Darius ban from UNA. So top lane kind of looking a little bit spicy. A lot of the popular picks have been banned out this game. So it's gonna be really interesting to watch top lane. Although Fiora, as I always point out, in games like this, Fiora and Fiora Mordekaiser are still on the table. So there's still a lot of pretty good meta pick top lane options still on the table. But
The thing is, you can't really like first pick the Fiora because there are some good counters to it that the other player can pick, and MSU is leaving their top side as their last pick. So it'll be interesting to see what all is going to happen here.
yeah, Zach Jungle into a Jarvan. I'm not sure if I entirely agree with that. Both of these champions are high mobility junglers, so you kind of makes sense that they need that to keep up. Although I think I've seen Zach historically kind of struggle against Jarvan the Fourth, so that's going to be an interesting jungle. Also, UNA having Garen as top lane, that's pretty strong. Garen has always been a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what MSU wants to pick into it because there's not really a whole bunch of like hard counters to it. Oh,
Well, that's a pretty good one. That's
uh,
actually a really good one.
it can be, but it's really swingy. If the Garen gets ahead, you just end up with a dead Teemo over and over again.
Yeah.
So you're really gonna want to see Jarvan actually like spend a lot of time in this top lane, actually make sure this Teemo does not fall behind.
See, if you had shown me Garen and I still had my top slot open, I would have mashed Vayne so hard. I would have been like, give me that percent health damage.
But
'Cause
then
you
you're
know,
playing Vayne into Zac, Cassiopeia, Mumu.
exactly. So it's like, how do I balance two evils here? It's kind of a hard thing to do. But yeah, so definitely kind of a strange team comp for both teams. I really liked the Amumu after the last game. I kind of felt a little bit like the Lulu support was a good option, but the Lulu wasn't played well. It just felt like the potential was there for the support to really be important, but the support Lulu did not feel like as impactful as I would have really hoped to see it have been.
I think
So
that's partially because they got. I don't want to say smashed, but they got double killed multiple times bot lane, and their bot lane was so far behind.
yeah.
Like a Lulu who's behind on a team that's already behind by like, so much as they were in the late game. It's really hard to actually protect your carries at that point.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, now that Swain's on board, MSU actually has a proper tank this game. Last game, that tank position was pretty much filled by Nasus. And there weren't that many team fights to begin with, except for like 2 or 3 in the kind of around the 25 minute mark. But this game feels, with Jarvan Force Swain, Gangplanking with a Garen, Zac, and a Mumu, this game is going to be a little bit grindier, I think, when it starts heading toward the 15 to 20 minute mark. We start getting the team fights.
I will say, UNA has a lot more CC this game.
Yeah, definitely.
Ash, Zac, Amumu into a Cassiopeia ult, and they can just lock down MSU if they're not careful. That's one problem with running into these like more bruiserish comps where you don't have as tanky of a front line. If they lock you down, they rip through you very quickly. And even Swain, in my opinion, because I've played Swain before, unless you get massively ahead like the Nico did last game, you're not super tanky. You're not like mid lane Swain who has a whole bunch of health items. You're kind of more of the setup for the Jhin. So it's I could see it in a world where MSU, if they don't get ahead, can really start to struggle in some of those later team fights because UNA has a very strong team fighting team.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, MSU has a very good. They have a lot of good ways of actually picking people off between Jarvan Jhin, GP ulti, Swain pulls. If they can find one or two people, they can just blow up one person very quickly. So if UNA is not careful in the mid game and don't rotate as a group, Cassiopeia or the Ashe could just get 100 to 0 very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And really, I think it's not because there's Jarvan, Gangplank, Swain. The Teemo too, like there's still a lot of CC on MSU side, but it's not hard CC. So there's a little bit of benefit here for UNA on that side, but also it's like it isn't so much a matter of having CC in the first place in this environment. It's knowing when and how to utilize CC in these team fights when it starts approaching the mid game around the 15 to 20 minute mark. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's not a. I expect early game to kind of be a little bit faster this time around. We do have a Cassiopeia Especially bot lane, like Jin Swain and Ashe and Mumu, like something's gonna happen really fast bot lane, so I'm gonna be watching that. And I really expect the Jarvan to come kind of swing into top lane a couple times to go help that Teemo. Because like you said, if that Teemo gets behind, it is game over top lane. That top lane is done. There's nothing they can do. So
So I'm interested to see if the Cassiopeia farms any better than the Anivia. Because last game we kind of saw Gangplank get ganked multiple times and kind of fall behind, but never actually be behind because he CS very well. Once again, we have this really good scaling mid laner in Cassiopeia. If she gets gold, kind of like Anivia, she can just rip through team fights in the late game. But
yeah.
it's a question of, after seeing that game one performance, is she actually going to get gold?
And I feel like she will, but it's like it really depends because these two comps are very team fight based. It's where you have kind of the like we said the Amumu Zach Garen deal going on with the Swain. Regard for a gameplay Teemo to some extent. We're gonna be really team fights are gonna take a little bit longer than the last game, but we're also gonna be looking at the Jhin and the Ashe to kind of scale a little bit harder than we normally look for in order to deal with kind of the rest of these tanky champions in these team comps. So I think
Yeah,
part of it is also looking at how do we expect the ADC to change in relation to like everyone else, because tanks can go fight all day long, but the Jhin and Ashe are really important here, and if the Jhin and Ashe don't scale properly, that's probably going to mean GG's for one of these teams. So it kind of boils down to I think that being part of the issue as well.
hmm. One thing though, I will say Ash is much better at ripping through tanks because Jin, kind of like the last game we kind of saw, he just sat and he tickled Sejuani for a solid like 20 seconds in a team fight, and then eventually got through her. He's gonna have the
Yeah.
same problem trying to kill Garen, trying to kill Zac. To a lesser extent, Amumu, because Amumu's support, he's not gonna have as much gold, so he's not gonna be as tanky. But still, like with three frontliners on the other side, it's gonna be hard for Jin to actually do damage.
Yeah, exactly. And really, I used to main Jhin mid lane, which I know if there are any of the players in chat, I will be criticized to all ends. It's like, why are you playing Jhin mid lane when your champion is zero mobility? Psych before Gale Force. Um, but yeah, because like you really understand that when you play Jhin bot lane, you're like, man, I'm shooting so many autos, and then my autos are supposed to do a lot, but they're doing nothing. Uh, and so like that's essentially like at some point when you play Jhin, if you're not being useful in damage, you end up having to just become a CC cannon, basically. So, as annoying as that is, that might be the reality for this game, is that we start to see Jhin switch into a slightly different role instead of damage, just kind of like doing CC solutions towards the mid to late game, kind of fulfilling a different role than normally see Jhin AC play. I would like to point out what's going on bot lane. um, is this what I think it is?
Yeah.
This is what I think it is. Oh, and look who happens to be standing right in the way. Oh, that's a very dead Jhin. That is an extremely dead Jhin. Okay, so wow,
He might be a little bit behind.
not even
By the
gonna go
way.
get the blue. Not even gonna go get the blue. Literally came in, walked in, killed the Jhin, walked out. Wow. Okay. That was the freest blue buff I've ever seen. All right. So,
So
not really behind too much, honestly. I mean, it's like a what 0.5 half K gold difference, so it's recoverable. And who got the kill? Oh, it was the Ashe. Okay, so bot lane gonna be kind of tilted a little bit in UNA's favor, but the Ashe didn't back or anything, so it's just gonna be on first back. We're gonna kind of see that difference.
So once again, we kind of had mirrored starts in the jungle. Zac started bot side with the leash from his bot. Jarvan started top with the leash from Teemo. So once again, if they played out standard ganks, Jarvan's gonna be looking kind of bot side with his first round, and Zach could be looking either mid or top. So, oh, Zach's actually going back down towards his Krug. So they might actually meet in this bottom lane here in a second.
Yeah, definitely. And also what's interesting to note is that Teemo is currently bullying the Garen very hard. In fact, I think this might be dead. Honestly, I thought it was dead for a second, but we'll see. My game is being a little bit strange at the moment. I need to fix it, but yeah, Teemo really does have the potential, I think, to bully this Garen out of lane early. And Synchro, I think, on first push might get a tower pudding, except Zach is going to come in and make that a lot harder, but it's going to grab the wrong way. Hit a minion instead on that gank. Also, another thing I completely forgot to talk about, Teemo wave clear really isn't that great towards the beginning of the game, is it?
No, not really. He very slowly autos the wave, and that's about it. Once he gets shrooms, it gets a little bit better, but even still, Garen just kind of spins in the wave and pushes it in.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so Potato kind of coming up top here. I think we're about to see what we were talking about, but it looks like he's just going to go for Krugs instead, maybe first. But this Garen should be very dead.
Yeah, he's getting chased into the alcove right now. Oh, they're dancing.
There we go. Okay, there's the ward. You got the overkill on side.
GP got a kill on Cassiopeia early on, and Ash got a kill on
Okay.
Chen.
Gotcha. Oh no, it's 1-2. Okay. So yeah, Murray already an overkill up, so kind of erasing that first blood difference. Only very, very small gold gap in 2K. But also this Teemo is not in a favorable position. You're gonna live, but you're gonna get pushed out of lane by that Zach. So despite the fact that Jarvan didn't gank that lane, Zach definitely sure will, especially against the Teemo. It's probably gonna try to look to get farm some kills off that top lane. But also, farm some kills off this mid lane if what we're foreseeing is about to happen. And Synchro going to overextend. Same issue from last game, and that should be dead. But it looks like he is going to get away. Nope. And
secure it.
Yep, that will be a secure mid lane. Jarvan is a little bit too late to the party there, coming in to help.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much he can actually do to stop that. Once they kind of stick on you, Cassiopeia is very good at just chasing down.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm surprised that the Cassiopeia actually went Conqueror. I know it's pretty popular to actually go Phase Rush, just to make sure you actually have the chase down potential.
Yeah, I was also looking at that, and I'm not entirely sure that was on purpose. I think that may have been wrong runes. But I've never seen a Cassiopeia take Conqueror. I'm not sure why you would.
I've seen it a couple times. It's where you're not as worried about mobility and you just want the stats and the healing. It's not as popular because especially in higher elo, you really prize the mobility of being able to kind of not even on offense but just on defense throw down a Q and an E and just run away from a gank.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're about to see the same type of early game from last game, where both teams are very, very even. The gold gap of only about 0.3, 0.5.
So the question then becomes, if they have kind of an even early game again, mid game rolls around, who do you want to place money on in the team fight?
Mid game rolls around. Man, that's tough. Right now, the way it's looking, I would probably still put money on MSU. That's only because I'm seeing the Swain probably is gonna try to scale here. early game. And this Gangplank also looking pretty strong in the mid lane as long as Synchro remembers to not overextend, as that has been the issue.
You say as he pushes up to Cassiopeia's turret
I
again.
was like,
He is committed to pushing as hard as possible on this Gangplank. Good and bad.
There's a very interesting fight going on bot lane with a dead Jhin and possibly a dead Swain as well. Swain's not going to find anything in return except for a Dark Harvest stack.
Aaron's just trying to spin on top lane.
Yep.
He's
Wow.
gotta be
Okay.
careful. Oh my
Oh.
guy.
Oh dang.
The man's 1 HP and he walks further into a bush.
Yo.
What a madman.
Imagine dying for walking into a bush with nobody in it. Like walking into a bush with somebody in it, sure, but like walking into a bush with nobody in it?
Ooh, that's dead ash.
Very dead Ash.
Some old fans of our league from 2 years ago might have remembered us busting out Jhin Swain. We used to love running this combo just because it's so good in the 2v2.
And when you look at that, Synchro once again overextending in mid lane and going to die for it. That's is the big issue.
He made it close. He actually, like, that was actually a pretty close fight in the mid lane.
And, very slow dragon, but red team has no vision. So UNA gonna snag that dragon pretty much for free. And what's interesting to know here is, even with the dragon, MSU still has about a 2k or a 0.2k gold lead. So definitely not shifting the balance too far in UNA's favor, but that Ocean Dragon is 1 out of 4 towards Soul, and Soul will be important in this game. So
It is going to be either Infernal or Mountain, which Mountain Soul on UNA's team would be really nutty.
it would. Infernal Soul on Neva, I think, would be pretty good still.
Yeah.
Ocean Soul kind of lame.
I don't know what you're talking about. I love me Emotion Soul.
See, I love me a Wind Soul. Wind Soul is, as a Yone player, that is life. I get to go so fast.
I don't know. I love rain, so when we get an Ocean Soul and just the whole rift gets slow
Oh, yeah.
drops, I love it.
Potato picking a very interesting fight here on bot lane. Not really sure what's going on here. I think they
was
can win
close.
this fight, but no, it's going to not work out well at all.
If Swain had gotten that ulti onto the Ashe, I think it would have actually been closer. But
Yeah.
that Ashe left with like 1 HP, came back into ulti and barely get more damage. If they had secured that early on, they might have been able to turn that.
Oh, that's a very dead Teemo.
Yeah, and the matchup's starting to swing over to Garen's side of it. He survived the early game, and now he gets to reap the benefits.
Now the question is, like, can Jarvan provide enough support for Teemo to get back on top of that matchup, or is top lane over? 'Cause that's really what it is at this point.
Problem that I'm seeing is kind of the same as last game, early game, where the gold's on like perfect champions right now for UNA. They got 3 kills on the cast, 3 kills on the Ashe, and 2 kills on the Garen. Their tanks, bunch of assists, they don't care. Whereas
exactly.
you look on MSU, they got 3 kills on the Teemo, who is now losing in the side lane into the Garen. 2 kills onto the Swain, but your ADC is 0-3. So he's not gonna really have a fun time trying to 2v2 right now. So I'm really interested to see if they can actually get the gold on the right people.
Exactly. Although I think this fight, bot lane, would have been quite easy if they didn't push up any more gun vision. But also top lane, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to feel about this honestly, because like, well, eating through tower shots was not the way to go. I will say. not really sure how Applebee's was doing there.
That was close.
But yeah. And Zach just gonna come in and kind of confirm this. There's no river vision. But now there is though, and that will not be enough. Bouncing, not it. Oh no! And that is a dead Zach, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my gosh.
I'm surprised that worked. That had no right to work at all. But it did. Also, interesting again, MSU leading by like a K in gold. It's 10-8. I guess that makes sense considering they did take down a tower, but where is CS sitting at?
Plating will fall soon.
Even for the most part, Teemo's up a little bit. Gangplank's even, bot lane's even. But it's even though they're even, the Ashe is actually up nearly a K.
Yeah.
Which is a little scary, but the Teemo against the Garen is actually up a K as well. So...
Yeah, I'm not... It's strange, because like, you know, 10-8, we expect to see a little bit more pushing from UNA, but I think UNA is just kind of playing scared. I'm not really sure... We've not really seen a big coordinated push or any like big lane engages from UNA besides the occasional Zach gank. And Garen is now ending up on the wrong side of this lane. That was a very nice flash though. Garen, I think, will live this, but it's very risky. And
while we were focused on
the
the Garen, yeah, while we were focused on the Garen, Gangplank once again dying in the mid lane.
What's new? There's nothing new here. You know what? Despite the fact Gangplank dying in the mid lane, it's a second dragon. Okay. So that's kind of big. So I think this is Mountain Soul now, isn't it?
It is Mountain Soul.
So that's this is really good for UNA. I really could not think of any better way for this to go.
I mean, the best way for them to go would be if MSU got the first two Drakes and then UNA just stacked the next four and became monstrously tanky.
You are correct, but that is not what happened. And I think Teemo might be about to grab this top tower.
He might get Garen, a kill on Garen too.
Nope. That's a Garen's taking that. Garen's good. That is pressure off of top tower for right now, but that team will be back. Oh, are they really gonna let that tower fall? Oh no, no, UNA, come on. Yeah, okay. So they let Winions do the rest of that work. I'm not really sure why Zach deemed anything in River was that important. But Jin is going to get that 200 gold shutdown on that Ashe, and I kind of even things out a little bit. Zach kind of trying to come in for an engage here, although I can't really pretend that's the best idea. So I think he realizes that and is going to back off of that.
I mean, I will say they do have a bit of a wobble right now with the Mumu, Zach, and Cass.
Alright, yeah, so that's going to be a very quick cleanup. Yeah, so that was an absolutely positive trade on a couple of the sides. That is an Ashe here. That should be somewhat of a dead Jin, hopefully. Yep. And that should clean things up there quite nicely. Leaving this at 17-12, and it should give UNA that Rift Herald, which will be very, very instrumental in pushing this mid lane down, which I think is their game plan.
So we got our answer of who would win the team fight in the mid game.
Yep. Also interesting to note that despite it being 17-12, MSU again somehow up gold. They really are not letting go of that gold advantage despite how many kills UNA has been racking up. So
I mean, all of the gold advantage right now is on Teemo and Swain.
Yep.
Because Swain is up 500 gold and Teemo's up to like 1,000 right now. Or 600 right now.
And
So-
well, now Jarvan's going to be up a little bit. That last interaction. I don't think Jarvan actually wants to initiate a team fight here. But there is one brewing up in this top side jungle.
I mean, the longer this kind of stalls out, the better it kind of is for UNA, because they want team fights to happen kind of more spread out, so they have their ultimates every time and can just wombo over and over again.
Exactly. And you know, especially like with the Ashe, like ranged CC engagement for a team fight, and then just having, you know, you have a Mumu, you have Zach, you have so much in ranged engagement for team fights on this team. It really should become quite easy. Late game, Ashe Arrow is going to hit the Jhin bot lane, and that's not Jhin, that was the Swain. My bad. That Swain will be dead, and that will be a Rift Herald from UNA bot lane. And that should be bottom tower gone, if everything goes to plan. And Herald will not die off of that, so this might lead into a second tower for UNA on the bot lane. It's gonna be half health on the tower.
So as much as the scoreboard is deceiving us, this actually is a very close game. Like, gold-wise and XP-wise, there's not a huge difference, which is kind of spooky.
Yep. And what's actually quite interesting is that this Teemo, simply by running around after hitting the Garen once, is winning fights versus the Garen. Although I just saw Zach was very dubious, and I do not agree whatsoever. But Will confirmed 2 kills for UNA, and should also be confirming yet another one off of this. That will be, yeah, so wow, okay, quite a lot of things should happen. That is an ace for UNA, and they should be wrapping up this next dragon with that ace quite easily.
The fights are close, but every time they just slowly eke out a little bit over MSU.
Yeah, exactly.
There has been like 3 back-to-back fights where like people kind of slink off with 1 HP over and over again. So
And you know, sometimes you have to realize that sometimes it's better just to live with your 1 HP so that you don't die and don't spend 40 seconds in respawn. Then you know, having happen what just happened to bot lane or top lane, and having your tower just get deleted for losing 1v1. So, but at this point, this game is really even. It's actually pretty much exactly even. It does not look that way on the scoreboard, but it basically is. So
the only problem is, in an even game state at this point in the game, I get more and more worried for MSU. Because we've already seen it multiple times. They have a wombo on the blue side, and such they have really easy, reliable engage with the Mumu and Zac. Whereas they're on the MSU side, they're squishier. They have less reliable engage. It's basically throwing out Swain pulls, Jhin Ws, and Jarvan throwing himself in there. And it seems like they're not getting damage on the right people. They really have to kill the Cassiopeia and the Ashe And every time they're kind of having to kite back and fight against the tanks that are going in on them.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing is like, even when they have all been in team fights, it's target prioritization and positioning has been not where it needs to be, as you can kind of see with Timo in bot lane or in top lane trying to get that last tower before base. But I'm pretty sure this will be a trade out for MSU as well, as they are going to get like Garen in bot lane. So nothing is going to snag both top laners.
The eternal split push battle. One of them dies in one lane, the other dies in the other. Almost
Exactly.
remain equal.
UNA finally pulling ahead by still not a very large amount, contrary to the scoreboard. They are finally pulling ahead about a K in gold. So kind of expected to see that a little bit earlier, but now we're kind of finally going to see it even out.
I will say there is a lot of like hidden advantage through the Drakes right now because of how many they've gotten. The 3 Drakes give a decent amount of like background stats. And if they actually get Mountain Soul, it's going to be so much harder for them to both get through the tank in the front line and even burst out the Cassiopeia or Ashe if they do miss position, because they're going to have that shield on top of their health. So I really want to see MSU try to be proactive and try to either try to pick off someone before next dragon, or they can't keep fighting the team fights like they have been.
Yeah, and looking at top river right now, this Garen is very out of position, but it will not matter. Simply having enough splash damage from MSU will finish this fight off quite easily. And that is also a dead swing, and that looks like it should be Baron for UNA. Although this, not quite gonna find anything. A little bit of a blind shot in the dark with UNA just backing off the situation.
Once again, it's just a team fight where MSU just barely can't finish off a couple of people, and because of it, they end up getting 4 for 1.
Exactly. And there is Baron for UNA. And with that Baron, I kind of expect them to be able to go collect Dragon actually here in about half a minute. From there, they should be good to go for winning this game if they push it right down the mid lane. Or actually bot lane might be a little bit more of an appealing option. Has a little bit less mobility options in terms of getting out of it, but definitely push down more. Alright, good, I believe that was a QSS or an orange.
I believe it's the orange.
On them. Yeah, so good orange usage there. Getting out of that CC, basically invalidated an Ashe ult.
So I asked you this last game with a much bigger gold lead, but we've kind of seen multiple team fights over and over where MSU just hasn't been able to connect and hasn't been able to get good team fights. What do they have to actually do going into this dragon fight to actually do better?
Looking at this team fight right now, it's at this point, I don't believe this is too far gone, but they really have to get their target prioritization down. This target prioritization right now is quite honestly not acceptable for being this far into the game, and for having seen as much as they've seen this far. This game's at 26 minutes, and there should have made some, even that team fight right there, there should have been some decisions made on target prioritization that simply weren't there. So there's some decision making that needs to change in regards to seeing a new team comp, and I think maybe MSU's mindset is maybe still stuck on last game's environment where they could get away with something like that. This game, the same tactic will not work.
So we've kind of had the script flipped on us. this game, it was incredibly back and forth over and over again in the early game. And then team fights roll around, and one team just starts winning.
Yep. So I think maybe what MSU needs to try to do then is maybe initiate a couple fights earlier to kind of, test the waters. It's like, are we in an okay position to fight or not? Because, even having that knowledge is really instrumental into going into early game, like 15-minute mark team fights, and knowing, am I going to be okay going to this team fight, or do we just need to back out, farm a little bit more, go aim for some objectives, and get an advantage that way? Because there are a lot of early fights in this game early on that I simply would not have picked if I were playing for MSU right
I think another thing they could look into, just looking at next game, if there is a next game, if they don't pull it out, is maybe picking someone on the top side, kind of like that has a little bit more team fight presence than the Teemo seems to have had.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think the Teemo maybe, Teemo's 981, that's 8 kills out of 34, so, the Teemo, I think the Teemo top lane wasn't, I think the player behind the Teemo is good, it's just the Teemo wasn't a good player in the game. I also think that Sincar really needs to evaluate here and really stop overextending into mid lane, because that has cost him almost all of his deaths this game, I think, honestly. Like, besides 2 or 3 team fights, that's like 5 deaths from overextending into mid lane and just not being where you need to be. So,
Oh, that's a good catch on Cassiopeia.
that is an extremely good catch from Cassiopeia.
Oh, but the Jin just got CC'd.
And that's going to be a grab back. Oh, it's not. And that Zach is going to die another bounty. And I'm pretty sure UNA is going to instead try to pressure the top turret here. And Swain really cannot do that much about it.
The Swain is going to tickle the Garen.
Yeah.
It seemed... I'm really thinking the Jin might need to get like a QSS.
Yeah, I'm also really thinking that.
Because there's way too much CC on the other side to just build the pure damage like he is right now. Because he got hit with a Mumu ulti, into an Ashe ulti, into a Cassiopeia ulti, and just did 0 damage when they had Cassiopeia stuff.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is this game is only like an 8k difference in gold, which is not something you couldn't catch up, but also like I think it's mainly the dragons, honestly. The dragons are such a big deal. And that is a good castle on the Teemo. Gonna clear out that source of damage quite easily. The Amumu is going to get shut down for an ultra 50 gold bonus. And this Garen is going to end up very out of position. Not where he wants to be. Going to get countered by the gonna run into that Jin and might make it out of here, but I really doubt it.
You gotta love Jin's just gale forcing into a Garen's face.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. I was like, oh no! And then you look, it's the Garen just blow. I was like, okay. On that note, this game was a little bit more even now. Not really that much more even, but it was a couple shutdowns, a couple kills that they needed to kind of stabilize out and get back in place. And we'll see kind of what MSU decides to do with those kills. But right now, I think their gold, actually, it looks like they might be trying to go for Baron, which is a little bit risky. Actually, it's a little bit more than a little bit risky, honestly.
Honestly,
but we will see.
I think they need to keep doing what they did there. They need to try to find picks on Cass or Ashe when they're not all grouped together. Because if they can disrupt the Wombo and actually keep them from having their 2 main carries, they have plenty of damage to actually get through the front line. It's just every one of the fights they haven't been able to touch the carries and just end up dying.
Exactly. Also, wow, this is rough. Alright, they really just need to get out of there and save that Baron buff.
Take the little victories. You got a bunch of kills, you got a Baron, you can stabilize for a little. You really have to be looking now at the dragon. Then is it a bull? the Elder Dragon that's coming up here shortly.
Yeah,
That's gonna be the battleground. If they can actually keep in it, UNA from getting that, it keeps them alive in this game, and then they can look at the next one. Because I think is honestly from MSU, it's gonna be an uphill battle. They're really gonna have to be just fighting this entire time to actually get back in this game. Oh, and you don't want to see Swain dying right before the Elder Dragon fight.
definitely not. That is a lost Elder Dragon. So will not be getting any of that. Kind of a strange fight going on top lane. Garen probably is gonna snag a kill real quick. The execute. Nice clean work. This Garen, I don't see this Garen dying. I'm gonna be real. This Garen's not gonna die. He is not. Yep. And this, if they push your top lane, this should be pretty close to game.
Yeah, if you can't cut the waves or somehow stop the waves, it's so hard to fight against an Elder Dragon team. So they just have all that extra just fighting power that it can't really beat.
I mean, this game was 42-23 with Soul and the Elder Dragon on top of it. This game probably was over a couple minutes ago. Yeah, and that ace should be enough to end this game.
Come on, a little more positive. No game is over until the Nexus is lost.
That is correct. However, it really is looking like the Nexus might be lost. Maybe just a little. Alright, and that is a victory for UNA. We'll be back in a couple minutes with the start of the broadcast for Game 3 of UNA versus MSU.
Hello and welcome back. We're heading back into picks and bans right now. We're starting off. UNA Gold still on blue side. MSU is still on red. Uh, UNA is starting off with. Oh, they almost changed their first ban. It's back to an Akshan ban. So I'm really interested to see if MSU ends up changing their strategy a little bit. Oh, they already are starting off banning the Amumu. That's good. But I'm wanting to see they keep some of the picks if they what they decide to change up, because they've kept the Jin every time, they've kept the Gangplank every time. It's mainly the others that have kind of been all over the place. UNA Gold goes for an Nasus ban, kind of expected after the first game. MSU sticks with Seraphine. They really don't want to see. I don't know if it's mainly the Seraphine mid or if it's Seraphine Sona or Seraphine Soraka bot lane, which is really popular right now. Could be either. UNA does not want to see Silas, it looks like, which makes sense because of the mid lane. They seem to have been happy to play against the Gangplank most of the time. And Cassiopeia ban. Okay. So we're kind of seeing closer to the bans from the first game, plus an Amumu from MSU. Let's see what UNA decides to pick up for their first round. And it's the Malphite. The Malphite last game got banned in the second rotation of bans. So this is really interesting because this is the first time top lane has been a first pick. Does MSU go with the Jin GP like they've done every other game, or do they actually try to put something top lane in the first round? Mordekaiser. Okay, so they both teams have shifted more towards a top lane focus in the first round. So, Elise. Okay. Oh, this is some interesting stuff because of the ways the bans have gone out and the teams have ended up. Both teams have ended up with picks that have been banned away in the other games that the others were like, you know what, maybe we'll drop it. So now it's going to see whether or not those were actually good decisions. Once again, UNA is going for a very heavy CC comp where they're mainly looking to pick off people in team fight very well. If they pick up this Ash. And they do. So now the question is, does MSU go with GP like they've been going, or do they try to pull out something else in the mid lane? Or do they even pick up the Jin right here? They have to let one or the other through, so they decide to go to Misfortune. Okay, that's interesting considering how much CC is on the other side. It's going to be real tough for her to actually open up with her ulti. So, just looking at this right now, once again, MSU's got a very strong top side with the Mordekaiser Elise. If what the past couple of games has gone through happens again, and MSU's top side ends up getting very ahead, Mordekaiser can just win in the side lane. And with the Mordekaiser and the Elise, I do believe that 2v2 does beat out Malphite Skarner for most of the game. So the question then becomes what happens on the rest of the map. Fizz and Lux bans for MSU, and Nico and something from UNA. Nico and Vel'Koz, okay. So the Nico was paired very well with the Jhin. I don't know if it would pair as well with the Misfortune, but the Vel'Koz was a pocket pick of the support. Oh, they grab a Lulu. That's interesting. So Misfortune Lulu is going to be a very strong bot side, at least in the 2v2. Let's see what UNA ends up deciding to answer with. They could go for like a pick and engage support, something like the Leona, something like Nautilus Blitzcrank, now that the Mumu's gone, or they could go for an enchanter themselves. Olaf in the jungle. They right now they have very little magic damage is my only concern from UNA. Oh, okay. According to the team, the Olaf was actually supposed to be Soraka, which is why they're hovering it in the next slot. Question is, what are they? Okay, so it's Anivia and Soraka. So the Anivia in the first game was pretty strong in the mid lane, but then kind of seemed to have fallen off into the later stages. I'm curious to see if it's going to be able to do the same against this team, because this team actually has a little... Oh! Pantheon mid. Okay. They decided to go away from the GP. That's really interesting, because it wasn't banned, it wasn't contested. They just decided Pantheon was the better pick now. So the only problem that I'm seeing is you're playing Pantheon into Anivia, Skarner, and Malphite, which is not going to feel very good. You're basically going to jump in to try to get onto the Ashe or the Raka, and if you don't blow them up right away, it's going to be real hard.
I'm going to remember this.
So what I'm seeing mainly right now is MSU kind of has a mismatch of a team. They have a really good topside split pusher in Mordekaiser. They have a strong early game jungler that can kind of support him. Then they have the Pantheon, who's pretty strong in the early game and kind of wants to put some global pressure down, mixed with a Misfortune who really wants to team fight a whole lot, and a Lulu that is mainly buffing up a Misfortune. So it's... I don't know if it's the most synergistic team comp, but if they get ahead early, they can just push down UNA. And when you look on the flip side of it, you have a Malphite, a Skarner, an Ashe, a Soraka, and an Anivia. Once again, this kind of reminded me of the first game a little bit with the Anivia, where the Anivia is mainly going to be there to counter the dive on the other team. You're going to have Ashe and Raka in the backline just trying to survive, put out damage and healing up, and the Skarner and the Malphite's really going to be their go button. And it's really going to come down to how well both UNA counters the dive and picks from MSU, and how much MSU can survive a lot of the engage from UNA. So right now we're just kind of running down the rest of the drafts. We're still going to have a little bit before the game actually starts. MSU's definitely taken a different turn from how they'd been playing a little bit earlier. Question is it going to be enough to actually come back and clean out the series? I think looking at the game overall, the Mordekaiser, at least in the early game, should bully out the Malphite. The Elise and the Skarner, it's really going to come down to who actually gets some good ganks off in the early game. The Skarner is probably going to farm better. So if Elise can actually get some kills early on, she can actually do very well. Pantheon to me seems like a really rough matchup into Anivia, at least early on, because she's just going to throw out a Q anytime you W in. She's going to bully you out whenever you try to approach the wave. But once you hit 6, you can roam a lot faster than Anivia. And the bot lane is really going to be a little volatile. If Misfortune and Lulu get ahead, they can just run down the Ashe Soraka. But if the Ashe and Soraka get ahead, it's kind of the same thing, whereas they just out-heal the damage from the other side. It's really going to come down to execution this game. It's really hard to give one or the other a clear advantage. Alrighty, welcome back, friends. We're in game right now. It's currently 1-1 after all that's happened the past 2 games. Thank you all for joining us. Right now, I'm actually by myself. Our other caster had to leave, but I'm gonna do my best to give you some fun League of Legends. And already it looks like we've got a repeat of round 1, game 2, where everyone's grouping up in the bot lane. this time it did not work. They did not get the free cheesy kill, but they're kind of now spreading out, seeing what all they can do. Question then becomes, what's going to happen with the early game with these junglers? That's really where my eyes are, because honestly, the most kind of volatile lane is going to be top lane and bot lane. Mid lane, I think, is going to be pretty bog standard. It's going to be real hard for either of them to really impact it, unless MSU keeps what he was doing on Gangplank as Pantheon and just kind of continuously pushes in. Then I could definitely see a world where Skarner just comes mid multiple times, fights, but he really shouldn't be able to outpush the Anivia unless the Anivia lets him. So this time was the first time in a while that we actually had both junglers start on the same side, and Skarner's actually going to mid lane almost immediately. Let's see if anything happens of it. So Skarner actually used his ghost there, but neither of the others actually flashed or ignited, so it's just down Ghost and some health from Pantheon. Whereas Elise is fully clearing her bot side right now, and Skarner's going back to his. Question is, does Elise go into the top side? Does she try to go bot lane to match where the Skarner could be? Malphite versus Mordekaiser is going about what we expect. Mordekaiser's kind of pushing in right now in the early game, and they're just kind of CSing. So, early on, something to look at. The first game, I kind of called out Anivia for this. Anivia did not farm well into the Gangplank. Gangplank was up gold, even though he was down several deaths, and the Anivia just didn't seem to be able to get gold. This time, in the lane where the Anivia, who already had a Skarner gank early on, and is playing Anivia, who should be able to push the wave a little bit, he's down nearly like 10 CS right now. He does have a big wave. He might be able to catch up on some kills, but still, this is not a good trend. Some other noticeable numbers. Right now, because of that early gank, Skarner's down a little bit in CS. Elise is actually in his topside jungle, just waiting for him. Mordekaiser and Malphite kind of brawling a little bit. But Elise is actually up several camps. And the Skarner's going back mid. Can Pantheon live is the question. So Pantheon got out. Elise is gonna get out. It's all kind of boils down to nothing. Bot side, the UNA actually is getting off the push right now with a significant health lead on the AD carry. Well, this is not looking good for MSU. They might have to actually learn Flash. And they actually snuck it away under the turret. Blue just barely isn't going to be able to kill the Ashe either. That is a tilter if you're MSU right now. Like I said earlier, if this bot lane gets significantly ahead, it's a really swingy lane. And just like every other game, the top lane is just brawling over CS right now. Skarner's showing up and just flashes the armadillo and walks away. Gets a flash and is happy with it. Oh, but Elise is coming around for a secondary gank. Will Skarner come back up and save in that fight? That's the question. No. So after all that action in the early game, it's 1-1. Lots of summoners burned, lots of ganks, and it's very minor advantages towards either side right now. Both are pretty even. Something that is actually very interesting that I didn't notice until now. Malphite ran Cleanse into the Mordekaiser. He doesn't have TP, which is a pretty common staple for top lane. It's very rare you see a Malphite go Cleanse. I'm just looking through now to see if there's anything else that's kind of odd. The oddest thing I think besides that is Lulu went Arcane Comet, which is interesting. It's a very lane-focused, bursty kind of rune to take as Lulu. Usually you see Guardian or Aerie more often. So I know I've been harping on this, but once again, the Pantheon right now is almost doubling the CS of the Anivia, which isn't great as Anivia. You really want to actually have the CS lead in this lane as the ranged matchup. Because if he gets more gold than you, and you get towards the mid game, he can just start going in on you, and you don't have the Skarner to back you up. He does have kill threat. This is an Ignite Pantheon. He's not really one of those where he just bursts you through and you can survive in the egg to come back for a second rotation. He can put out enough DPS to kill you in A. So, Skarner gets the first dragon. The question is, are they going to repeat last game and be able to get... Oh! Mordekaiser actually killed Malphite there, who burned his cleanse to die. Question is, can UNA kind of stack up those Drakes again, or is this the game where we actually see some successfully contested Drakes? Elise is doing something really cheeky right now. She's sitting in this bottom alcove just waiting to see if the other lane pushes up. I don't know if they actually have seen her at all or what, but they're playing real scared right now. Oh. Oh. If Elise had a little more patience, she might have actually been able to get that cocoon to connect, and they would have died. But she burns 3 summoners out of them. That could be a very easy regank opportunity. We'll have to wait and see if it'll actually boil down to something. Anivia is actually coming down here right now. Oh, Lulu, I think, is dead here to the Ashe, yeah. So, right off of that, Anivia's Roam actually gives them the counter that actually gives them 3 more summoners burned off the opponent bot lane. Now there's nearly no summoner except for Lulu's Ignite down here. It's gonna be real interesting to see if the teams actually put some resources into reganking. Pantheon's in a bit of a rough spot right now. Malphite's roaming down too. Oh, and he gets off a good double ulti. So, UNA gets a kill there, and they're most likely going to take Rift Herald. MSU is just kind of resetting, trying to recoup some gold. Come back at him again next time. Build-wise, something interesting. Malphite's got a lost chapter. This isn't going to be a tank Malphite, at least in the early game. This is going to be a Malphite who actually is building AP. I can't believe it, but the Elise actually got the Rift Herald away from what I thought for sure was going to be UNA's Rift Herald, and now she's just bullying Skarner and taking his blue buff and looking for a dive on the top lane, but she's not even needed. She just drops the Rift Herald and it's going to help them push in. So many plates up here to them. Mordekaiser has a 400k gold bounty right now. Can they actually just get the turret? Oh my gosh. 11-minute turret topside. Right now, Mordekaiser's 2k gold up on Malphite. This is a stacked topside if he can actually get to a point in the late game. Skarner's fighting him though, but I don't think he's actually going to be able to chase him down and confirm the kill. They're looking. And Malphite got a shutdown on him. That goes a long way to closing that gap. This is kind of what I was talking about, this Pantheon into an India matchup. He just straight up almost 100 to 0'd her, and actually just ignited her. He pops his egg. If Anivia didn't have egg there, Pantheon actually would have just straight up killed him. And this is kind of the downside. Mordekaiser's actually looking down here. Lulu actually takes the Ashe kill, but once again, third game in a row. It's very back and forth, 5 to 5, very even gold. And we get a dragon trade-off, so we actually do have a game on our hands right now, folks. And after talking so much about it last game, we even get my favorite Drake. We get an Ocean Soul, and some nice rain on the Rift. Pantheon barely makes it out with his life after a engagement in the mid lane. Oh, there's an engaged bot lane. Lulu's just gonna be dead to the Skarner gank. Skarner's not gonna be able to catch up to the Misfortune, but on the other side, Elise is going for Anivia. Mordekaiser's chasing down Malphite. And they're getting Anivia, who takes a page out of Synchro's book from the last couple games and decides to push up for too long to get the turret. They're just going in on Soraka. They almost just killed Soraka. If she hadn't flashed out, she would be dead. Lisa's going way too hard on the Soraka though. If he had just stayed, Pantheon would have lived. Now Soraka and Skarner get out. Oh, I don't... That's some hyper focus by Elise onto Soraka really cost them. And on the other end, Mordekaiser with his lead is just bashing down this top turret. We got the tale of two games right now. On the one hand, MSU's topside is really strong with Mordekaiser. On the other hand, UNA's bot side is very strong with this Ashe Soraka, who've just kind of been pulling the duo lane. The question is, in a big fight, is Mordekaiser going to be able to pull off enough to actually be able to make up for the fact that he's Mordekaiser? something else that's good on MSU. They have multiple Grievous wounds already stacked for Soraka. Pantheon might just be dead here in the mid lane now. Oh, I don't know if Skarner wants to take this fight. On the other end, Malphite ended up killing the bot side with his ulti, so that's that was the one good pressure point that they had, was the fact Malphite was down and Mordekaiser was up. If they start evening gold across the UNA team, this Malphite becomes very scary for the immobile members of MSU. Big decider of this game that's going to happen is what happens around these drakes. As we have about a minute left before Ocean Drake spawns. If either team can jockey for a position to actually be ahead at that time, it's going to be huge. But instead, they're choosing to fight over Rift Herald. UNA is starting to run up to actually get up here to see if he can contest. They're just waiting in the bush. I don't know if MSU knows that they're there, and they're trying to go in. It's an absolute brawl right now. Soraka's ended up dead to Pantheon. Mordekaiser is trying to beat them down for all he is worth. I'm getting Nasus flashbacks from the first game. This Mordekaiser is trying to take them onto his back. So like I was saying, because of that Rift Herald fight, Skarner's not going to be here bot side. They could have taken the Ocean Dragon that's right here, but Elisa right now is taking her Raptors. Lula's trying to get vision around bot side, but I don't know if it's as easy now, because if Skarner wanted to, he could just run straight there, but instead they're going to be trying to go to the MF, who's all alone with no mana in the bot side. MF decided to be the sacrificial lamb so that they could hit the dragon. Skarner goes over the wall to try to smite it, but does not be able to. So that should just be a free kill for MSU that they can clean up. Once again, 20 minutes in, it's 11-11 with a mostly tied gold score. The only difference is MSU has 2 more Drakes, and they're collapsing into Nivea, who's having to flash the wall. You're running the wrong direction. You're going into their base. There's not a whole lot of places you can go in Nivea. She's trying to back in the bush. Is she going to be able to get out? They're looking to the left. She might actually get out right now. Oh my gosh. I take it back. She made the great escape. It reminds me of times where Anivias would take teleport so that they could teleport away and during their egg Nivea. Those were the days. So it looks like they're deciding now to send the Anivia topside to deal with the Mordekaiser and just wave clear off. Pantheon just went in on the Soraka, but Malphite's coming in from the side. Now he's backing away. He might be able to come around on the other side to the Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser's currently being pinched on 3 sides by Malphite, Soraka, and Anivia. While he's taking the blue up, he's also getting shot by the Ash Arrow. Can he actually win this 1v3? It looks like he might. This man is just beating them down 1v5. Oh, Pantheon's coming in now. Now he's coming in on the 1v4. Can he actually kill the Soraka? No, she flashes out. He ulted into his demise. They did get the turret in the mid lane, but they're having to run away now to avoid giving over more kills. Honestly, that is the kind of energy you need to see, where the Mordekaiser is just 1v5, just brawling to try to get his team advantages. If they actually had a team with that man might have actually been able to just beat them down, but... it's calmed down a little bit now. The next real objectives that we're going to see is their MSU is trying to group up mid lane to push it down. They're going to have a little bit of trouble pushing into this Anivia without Baron, though. This is kind of a repeat of what we had the first game, where after a certain point, you really just can't. So they push up, put some pressure there. They can either decide to Baron right now, or they can decide to wait for the next Ocean Dragon that's going to come up. It looks like they're jockeying for position and vision around Baron. They're pushing out topside, and then they might decide just to back and recall and just push out on a different side, or they could decide to do something here. UNA is still mid lane right now. They're just pushing out. Scar is finally coming in to check, but... question is, what is MSU going to do, considering they're just pushing in mid lane now? Oh, you hate to see that. They did get their Soraka in the end of it. Question is, can they get anything else before the dragon spawns? They should get the Malphite now. Okay. They're looking for more. Ocean Drake is spawning in 16 seconds. I don't think UNA is going to be in a position to actually do anything about it, though. Once again, Malphite doesn't have teleport. He has cleanse. So, oh, Pantheon found the Ashe. Oh, Pantheon might just be dead here, though. He did not have the burst to actually kill the Ashe after she flashed away. And now it's actually looking closer if UNA actually wants to fight this. Oh no. It looks like we're getting round 2. Mordekaiser's off on his own. They're chasing him down. I think if you're Mordekaiser, you like these odds. Maybe not. I guess they're at the point now where they've just got too much damage. You can't fight the 1v4s anymore. I believe, but... oh well. So UNA at the end of that, now they're just pushing in topside, they're pushing in mid. They're looking to either put some pressure in mid lane. Oh, they got a little bit of engage in a scuffle. Is anything gonna actually come of it though? It looks like they might actually be able to disengage. So just looking at the game state all across the board, it's once again very even on kills, very even on gold. The actual CS is actually very even, except in the jungle, where Elise actually has about 50 more farm than Skarner. Pantheon's in a very precarious position, but MF ulti, that is huge! She just single-handedly cleared 3 people away from this jungle. can they actually just turn on the Baron while that's... Well, they're looking to fight Skarner. Mordekaiser with the rest of his team is a little bit harder to kill than just Mordekaiser by himself. They're just turning around. They're gonna ace out UNA. Oh my gosh, they can turn on the Baron now. This is gonna flip the game wide open. One of the hardest parts about pushing in earlier was the fact they didn't have Baron. They were constantly pushing into Anithia. Now they're going to have the Baron. Gonna get all this gold off this ace. We went from being in a mostly even game to being 5k ahead. If they can grow this gold lead, take the Ocean Soul, MSG is going to be in a great position. They might be able to just close out the game if they're good, if they're able to. There are some very important item completions across the board right now. MF just got Collector. Mordekaiser just got Spirit Visage. Oh, Pantheon just got Collector too. Those are some big break points for the actual damage dealers of MSU. It gets so much harder when you are UNA to actually be able to fight back against them now with the Baron buff, with this gold lead. It's hard. It looks like right now, actually, they have the Elise on the bot side and then a group of 4 in the mid lane. I don't know if they're just going to use this 4-man to push down mid or not. Both Anivia and Malphite are top. They're having to back right now while they're just getting free time on this in-hit tower. Skarner popped Ghost. He's pulling Mordekaiser underneath the tower. Is Mordekaiser actually going to live at all? They ended up getting the tower. Mordekaiser's still alive. Mordekaiser's living so long. That MF ult was massive. That is the downside to blowing everything on the Mordekaiser. If he lives, they just have so much free time in the backline. That should just be the MSU win right there.
Alrighty, I'm coming back in. Awesome game in there from Murray State. Fantastic plays from both teams there, but Murray State able to pick up the W in the end. As you guys were saying, fantastic games all the way through. At least from my perspective, again, not a league player. Those were super close, weren't they, Kyle?
Yeah, they were all pretty close back and forth games up until mid-game where it started really coming down to teamfight execution.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good work from the Racers, picking up their W, especially on their stream debut tonight. Fantastic work from them. Look forward to seeing them progress through the rest of the season. Great plays, though, from Northern Alabama. Fantastic plays, worthy opponent, but Murray State just able to come out on top in the end. So, that's about it that we have for you. Big, long stream today. Went to the third map. But that's what we love to see, and especially with a Racer W in the end. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next week. I think we have Valorant coming up, and we may have CSGO scheduled for next week. So be sure to tune in and check our social media for updates. But other than that, we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.